Raider Nation, I am excited to announce that I will be interviewing a Raiders starter. I'm not going to tell you who it is. I'm not going to tell you whether or not they play offense or defense, but if you want to be a part of our live show, we're going to do one on Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific. Here's the kicker, though. It's not a kicker. It's going to be for only subscribers. So if you do not subscribe to the Raiders Report, you will not be able to watch. You will not be able to ask him questions. So please go ahead before I get into today's video and subscribe. No matter the location, from O-A-K-L-A to L-V, I'm a Raider. Coming up here on the Raiders Report, Geno Atkins, is he on his way to Las Vegas? There's a report connecting him and the Raiders. Jon Gruden, Derek Carr, what's that relationship like? Mike Mayock decided to speak on that. Then Davante Adams, his latest. And you know what? I even just got some new information from the NFL, which we'll get into at the very end of today's show. The first thing that we're going to talk about, though, is Geno Atkins potentially going to Las Vegas. There's a report circulating out there right now that the Raiders have, in quotes, stayed in touch with Geno throughout the entire process. Las Vegas, they might be able to go ahead and sign him before training camp. Now, for all of you that don't know, training camp will begin on July 27th. That's when the veterans are going to report. But he's been rehabbing from an injury. He just got cleared, so you're going to see a few different teams probably at least pick up the phone, see how Geno's doing. And if you're going to go ahead and look at these numbers that he had last year, you're going to be like, wait a minute, Mitch, why would anybody want Atkins? He played in 8 games. He had 1 tackle, and it's one of the worst diets out there, right? I kind of kid, but 6'1", 300-pounder. The reason why Atkins has also been connected to this Raiders team is because of his fit and the Paul Guenther old defense. So, like, one of the biggest questions that always gets brought up is, does he actually make sense in this Gus Bradley new defense? Now, I don't want to look at 2020 because he didn't play on the Bengals simply because, for whatever reason, the Bengals didn't decide to play their good players. But this has been a guy who's been historically one of the best defensive linemen in the entire league. 2019, 47 tackles, 4 tackles for a loss, 4.5 sacks, 10 quarterback hits. But then when you look at what he's done throughout his entire career, 261 games. We know how much Jon Gruden loves veterans. I know how much Gus Bradley loves veterans, and if you want to help a young team, maybe go out and kick the tires on this man who's got 383 tackles, 100 tackles for loss, 75.5 sacks, and 171 quarterback hits. So this is going to be the question that's going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So every single person that comes across the Raiders Report, every single person that comes across this, you're about to get hit with a YouTube ad break. While that ad is playing, I want you to scroll on down and let me know, should the Raiders sign Geno Atkins? Why for yes or and for no? My answer is why for yes, because I'm a believer that he can help this team. I don't look at numbers from 2020 coming off a down year. I look at the player and what he is going to be able to add to this defensive tackle unit because, yes, I like our DTs a lot, but you'd be kidding yourself not to say that he wouldn't at least be a solid depth player. In 2019, he had a 76.2 overall grade on PFF. For those of you that don't know, anything above 70 is pretty good. As soon as you start getting into the 80s, that's great. 90 is truly elite. I don't expect him to get back to 2018, 2017, 2016 version of Geno Atkins, where some people would say was one of the best, if not the best, defensive tackle in the National Football League. I guess I shouldn't say the best. There's still Aaron Donald. But he has the opportunity to still, I believe, be a top 25 DT, which brings some value. Now, I like Solomon Thomas a lot. I love Hankins' ability to stop the run. Quentin Jefferson is also another solid, reliable veteran. But if you're telling me right now you can add an extra player, it's something I'm going to think about. And the reason why I would go ahead and do it is because I believe that he'd be a top 4 DT on this roster. I don't know if he's better than Solomon Thomas at this point. I don't know if he's better than Jefferson. I don't know if he's better than Jonathan Hankins. But if he is 100% healthy, I will sit here and I will say that I do think that he would be a top 4 defensive tackle on this defense. So in terms of probably the question that everybody wants to know, how likely is it that Geno Atkins is going to be a member of the Las Vegas Raiders before training camp? I'm going to go ahead and give this one only one Chucky head and say it's a small shred of truth. Do I think the Raiders should do it? Yes, but you guys have to remember the way Chucky heads are made, or 1% is like 25% chance of happening. There's going to be a lot of NFL teams out there. And now if I would have given it 0, then I would have said no chance. But there is a chance at least because he is a good player. Jon Gruden, Gus Bradley, they love his ability. They've stayed in contact with him for over 2 years. But one of the other reasons why it can only be one Chucky head is because dollar bills, y'all. The Raiders have right now only $3.3 million in terms of cap space. That's bottom 5 in the NFL. Could they still be able to move around some money? Yes, I think the Raiders have been one of the better teams over the last few years in terms of being able to restructure contracts to make certain things work. The other reason why it's only one Chucky head is because everybody that I've talked to in the Raiders organization, they are very confident in some of these defensive linemen, defensive tackles that they have. Vickers, he's been able to play on the edge. He's also been able to play DT, a good player that made the 53-man roster last year. Darius Philon is a big-time Gus Bradley dude who, sure, he didn't play the last 2 years, but the last time he did play with Bradley, very impressive. And then I haven't heard of anything bad about the UDFA from West Virginia, Darius Stills. But if you go ahead and insert him into this mix, it does make it a little bit more difficult. So here's the question I'm going to ask y'all here. Who's the best DT that you guys see on screen? If you believe it's Kendall Vickers, type KV. If you believe it's Darius Stills, type DS. Maybe it's Darius Philon, DP. If it's Geno Atkins, type GA. Here's the reason why I'm going to go ahead and say this, because if anybody out there is typing GA, then you are in agreement with me that you need to go out and sign Geno Atkins. Do I believe that defensive tackle is the biggest need for this team? I do not. I've said multiple times, I still believe that slot corner is the bigger need, and with a guy like Brian Poole out there, I don't even know how we're not talking about that. But is Las Vegas actually interested in going out and getting extra defensive tackles? Because that still remains to be seen. But if they are interested in Geno Atkins, that tells me that perhaps they could also be interested in going out and signing other DTs. In terms of my top defensive tackles left on the free agent market, I'm only going to bring up these 3 players here because these are the only 3 players that I would actually want the Raiders to go out and get. Geno Atkins is number 1. Jurrell Casey is number 2. He had 14 tackles last season. Sure, he battled some injuries, but if he's healthy, he can still contribute. And then Kawann Short, he's number 3, but it's Geno number 1, Jurrell 2, and then a clear tier break, Kawann Short at number 3. So overall, we do news, we do rumors, we talk about the top trending topics. Geno Atkins coming to the Raiders. I'm only going to give this one a 1%. No, it's not right. I have one Chucky head % chance of happening. Now, guys, I don't know if you know this, but believe it or not, I make a lot of different videos here at Chat Sports. I do NFL rumors on our main channel, and I might even have an opportunity to get some NBA draft live coverage. So if you're a Warriors fan, if you're a Lakers fan, if you're wondering who the Warriors are going to pick at 7 or 14, if you're wondering who the Lakers are going to pick at 22, who are the Pistons going to take at number 1, I've been told that I'm probably going to be in charge of our pronunciation guide because I struggle with names and we always have a joking time with it. And I'm going to be the guy that's going to be partying the entire show. So if you want to join me, if you want to join the number 1 most watched draft coverage around the NBA, then go ahead and subscribe to Chat Sports, youtube.com/ChatSportsTV. Next story coming up here is around Derek Carr, around Jon Gruden, because Mike Mayock spoke this week about Carr and Gruden's relationship because for whatever reason, the media will not listen to me. They won't listen to anybody out there because they're just like, oh, Jon Gruden and Derek Carr hate each other. I think it's just one of those things where we're in the middle of July. People are going to continue to talk about it, but Mayock literally said that their relationship is like a corny marriage. Now, I don't know what the hell that means. I mean, that is like the most dad comment that I have ever. I can literally hear my dad being like, oh yeah, it's like a corny marriage. But Dad, you know I love you. And Mayock I respect the hell out of. But can we just like squash all this Carr and Gruden have beef thing? Because neither of these guys have ever indicated that that's the truth. So here's what Mayock had to say on Carr and Gruden's relationship. They're definitely on the same page. Derek is even finishing John's sentences now. It's like a corny marriage. It's really funny. I mean, anytime I'm going to go ahead and talk about both the quarterback, both the head coach, obviously, it's going to get some headlines there. But in terms of overall, why I wanted to go ahead and talk about this is because Carr and Gruden have a good relationship. So can we please finally stop talking about that overall? The other thing that I wanted to go ahead and bring up is like this kind of an interesting story. Carr having a photographic memory. So I've heard this story before. I've never been able to confirm it nor deny it essentially. But the rumor out there is that Carr has a photographic memory. And Gruden's system, we know it is not easy. And it could be one of the reasons why it takes quarterbacks so long to get used to it. And that's why we're also seeing now Derek getting a little bit more comfortable in this. So Mayock also spoke about Carr's memory. And I'm curious whether or not you guys think he has a photographic memory. That's going to come up right now after this YouTube ad break. All right, Mayock on Carr's memory. I don't know if Derek has a photographic memory or not, but his memory is mind-boggling. Jon puts a lot on his plate, and he handles it seamlessly. The 2 seasons I've been here, he's gotten better each year. I'm excited to see where he can take this thing. So I'm not saying that a photographic memory is a superpower, and one of the superpowers that I definitely don't have is the ability to be able to spell. But you know what? We're going to have a little bit of fun here on the Raiders Report. I want you guys to fill in the blank. I wish blank was my superpower, so I struggled reading that. Reading's not a superpower of mine either. If I were to say any superpower, I'd probably go ahead and say teleportation. If you ask me how to spell that, good frickin' luck. But let me know down in the comments what your superpower would be if you could pick. If you guys haven't already, please go ahead, follow me on Instagram. I'm going to be doing an IG live on Friday, and I also want to be talking about some of the things that could be in this potential interview, if you will, with the Raiders player not yet going to be named. But if you want to go ahead and interact with me on an easier level on IG, go ahead and give me a follow. I'm going to be doing a live on Friday. The next story coming up here is also around Instagram, and it's actually how I found this story, around Davante Adams and around Derek Carr, because you know, we always have this saying where there's smoke, there's fire, and some people got upset at me for putting this out there on Twitter that Davante Adams is commenting on Derek Carr's photo. It has nothing to do with him saying, let's go, on a recent DC picture. It's more the fact of Davante Adams has been more than okay saying that, you know what, I would love to play with Derek Carr. So my question is like, does he actually want to be a Raider? Carr posted a picture on Instagram. Adams commented on it. It's by far have the most likes because we all know Raider Nation wants him. And then earlier this offseason, he literally said it would be a dream come true to play with Carr, and Carr only wants to play for the Raiders. So does Adams want to come to Las Vegas? All I'm saying is this. If you want Las Vegas Raiders to go out and get Davante Adams, right? He commented, let's go. Well, let's go get Davante. If you're like, hell yeah, Mitch, I want to see this guy in some silver and black, I want you to type 17 down in the comments. Now, one of the reasons why I think this is kind of interesting is like, if he wants to be a Raider, then you go ahead and do it. I've also brought up different points where if the Raiders do go out and either trade for Davante Adams or sign him in free agency, that probably means that either Henry Ruggs or Bryan Edwards did not do their job, which some people will be like, all right, like that's kind of a bad thing, and I agree with. But get Adams to Las Vegas. Why does this actually make some sense? Why? Maybe does Davante Adams want to get the hell out of Green Bay? He's best friends with Derek Carr. I'm not saying Derek Carr is a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers, but if you want to go ahead and play with your best friend, you got a pretty cool opportunity to go ahead and do that. Another reason why could make some sense here is because he wants a new contract. He's got 1 year left on his deal. He's going to make $13.78 million. And I've given some numbers out there that I really think Adams could probably get a 5-year, $115 million contract, $69 million guaranteed. But that's based on the salary cap next year in 2022. If the Raiders wanted to make a move right now, the salary cap is down, and that could actually be a cheaper deal. Now, I'm not talking about major number differences, but we're talking about you could probably save over that 5 years maybe $10 million. Maybe he's willing to take $2 million less if you take him right now. And it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever if him and every single one of those Green Bay Packers players is kind of sick of this Rodgers drama. Imagine going into training camp. Imagine going into your contract year not knowing who the hell your quarterback is. Because let's face it, if Aaron Rodgers leaves, I don't care who's going to be under center for the Packers, his numbers are going to go down. So if you're Davante Adams, you're like, going to be worried that Rodgers is going to leave. So you're like, all right, I want to take advantage of the numbers that I just had where I had 18 touchdowns in 14 games. I'm trying to take advantage of this contract year that I just had because I'm coming off probably the best year I'll ever have. And if you lose Aaron Rodgers, I don't trust Jordan Love. I don't trust any of the other quarterbacks on that Packers team, and that could really impact his wallet. We know what he could be, but the fact that this young man is coming off a career year, I call him a young man the same age, but the fact that he's coming off a career year could make him aggressive to go out and sign right now. Because if Rodgers is gone, the numbers decrease, the overall value of this contract overall is going to continue to go down and down. Will people still think that he is a good receiver? Yes. But right now he's up for the discussion of the best wide receiver in football. If he struggles without Rodgers, maybe that conversation's not there anymore. And he's an extra year older. All I'm saying is it's something to think about. So right before I was getting ready to film today's show, there was some news that came out that I want to talk about. This is more NFL news, and this is from Tom Pelissero. Wow, Pelissero. God, Mitch. The NFL just informed clubs that if a game cannot be rescheduled during the 18-week season in the 2021 due to a COVID outbreak among unvaccinated players, the team with the outbreak will forfeit, yes, forfeit, and be credited with a loss for playoff seeding per sources. This has massive implications. When I saw this, my two takeaways were this. If you're talking about teams that are coming down there and there's like 5 players that it could be really, really close in terms of overall talent, you could see teams pick a vaccinated player instead of a unvaccinated player. And actually, a few weeks ago, maybe even a few months ago at this point, who has the memory to remember, but Mike Mayock even said it himself that like they could end up picking players that are vaccinated instead of unvaccinated due to all the issues that happened last season for this team. The last point that I want to go ahead and bring up is this. The Raiders have done actually a very good job of getting their players vaccinated, so hopefully this doesn't run into that big of an issue, because I'm telling y'all what right now, if an outbreak happens and the Raiders are forced to forfeit a game, or if it comes down to it and they're sitting there tied for the 7th seed, or maybe they're tied for an extra playoff spot and they have to forfeit that because of COVID, that's not going to make a lot of people from Raider Nation happy. It's especially not going to make a lot of the players happy and the coaches. So all I'm saying is this. If you start finding out some players that are unvaccinated and they're on that roster bubble, they might end up getting cut. If any of that stuff does end up happening, we'll keep you updated here on the Raiders Report. And before I go, again, remember, special live show on Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific, with a Raiders player. If you are not subscribed, you will not be able to watch. You will not be able to comment. And anytime we do shows like this, I want as many people to watch. All right, y'all, have a good weekend. I'll see you Sunday.